Mac's great-grandfather was a missionary doctor, and
Fantastic,
he had
man.
all his family in China, and during the uprising, they had to leave China and moved here in 1930.
Well, that's where I was born, in 1925. At Port Credit High School. We started out being in Ontario Agricultural College. Well, at Harvard, as I mentioned. First year I worked for my father. Then he said, well, look, this is not right. He said, you're into a bigger arena now. And my father said, you take it on, carry it on. You never get a chance like this again. We did some work there with Mr. Taylor. There was also Mr. Fraser. But you see, Mr. Fraser, when he came back from the United States and everything, there was no place to live, so he lived in our home. James Duncan. Then we did the work for James Duncan before Don Mills was ever done, believe it or not. George Black. George Black.
Yeah.
And then E.P. Taylor, the three of them.
In Washington with the British Supply Mission. Yeah. He was very nice, actually. He was very nice. And I remember he said to my dad once that it's difficult for a man in his position to make friends. You know. He said I could count my real friends on one hand. I remember him saying that to Dad. I think my father was one of them. They
wanted to have beer in a big corner of this thing. Anyway, later on, Mr. Fraser said, well, what's the matter? Why not do something else with the ground? And at home, we were concerned with serving expanding populations, just about everywhere.
They procured the land bit by bit. And I remember there was one gas station right at the corner of of Don Mills Road and Lawrence, I think, and he refused to sell. And he ran a gas station there for many, many years.
Don Mills had 9 awards around the world. United Nations, the fellow that put the United Nations together, he came to Canada. I got a suitable person to do the first unit. He was from do you remember him?
Macklin Hancock?
No, way back in that would have been Switzerland. He was in Switzerland. And he'd come out here to meet, who was it? Tony Adamson. And he worked for University of Toronto. Of course, I asked him to do a drawing for Don Mills. I said, you should look, I said, generally, I just cut a little sort of idea about it. And then he said, don't worry, I'm a very good architect. I know what you want. It still sits out there, but it's been added to in Don Mills. It's the first one that ever came up. And then after that, other people came along and said, oh, we can do something, but maybe we can do it better. Then there was Henry Fleece, and and Henry did a great deal of job for Don Mills. We had the job on the downtown Toronto city centre. And then, well, why not have everything connected underground to the new facilities, which were on the east side and then on the west side. And that meant that you could have the whole of the central downtown underground, and you've probably seen all these underground places. And it was built upon the idea of this. Work in the Bahamas, and Aberdeen, and I can name dozens of things. This was in Kuwait. That was in 1960. Of course, it's Don Mills, but this is what came out of Don Mills. The whole thing started at Don Mills.